The vanilla latte burned my tongue, but I barely noticed. My hands trembled as I balanced the coffee carrier containing 2 specialty drinks from Marcus's favorite café. The pretentious one downtown that charged $12 for foam art. I'd driven 40 minutes through morning traffic to get here, practiced my surprised smile in the rearview mirror, and now stood in the gleaming lobby of Hartwell Financial Group, trying to calm the excited flutter in my chest. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Today was supposed to be perfect. Marcus had been working late every night this week, coming home exhausted and barely coherent. The promotion he'd been chasing for 6 months was finally happening today, and I wanted to be there to celebrate with him the moment he heard the news. We'd been engaged for 3 months, and I was still riding that wave of blissful certainty that I'd found my person. The lobby was all glass and chrome, the kind of calculated sophistication that screamed old money. Marcus had always been proud of working here, had always made sure I understood what a big deal it was that Hartwell had recruited him straight out of business school. I'd listened to countless stories about the company culture, the prestigious clients, the networking opportunities. I approached the curved reception desk, where a woman with perfect posture and sharper cheekbones sat typing. Her nameplate read Jennifer Morrison, in elegant script. "Hi," I said, trying for friendly and confident despite my nerves. "I'm here to see Marcus Chen. I'm his... Do you have an appointment?" Jennifer's eyes barely left her screen, her tone professional but dismissive. "No, it's a surprise. I'm his fiancé, and I wanted to..." "I'm sorry." Jennifer's hands stilled on her keyboard. She looked up at me now, and something flickered across her face. Confusion? Pity? "Mr. Chen is currently in a meeting with his wife." The coffee carrier slipped from my fingers. Everything happened in slow motion. The cardboard hitting marble, the plastic lids popping off, hot liquid spreading across expensive flooring. Jennifer was already moving, grabbing tissues, calling for maintenance, but her voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "His wife?" The words scraped out of my throat. Jennifer froze, tissues in hand, her perfectly composed face cracking just slightly. Perhaps I misspoke. Let me call up to his office." "You said wife." My voice was getting louder. A few people in business suits passing through the lobby glanced over. "You specifically said he's with his wife." "Miss, if you could just..." "What's her name?" I stepped forward, my sneakers squelching in spilled coffee. His wife. What's her name? Jennifer's professional mask was fully shattered now. She looked genuinely distressed, caught between corporate, protocol, and human decency. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. If you'll wait here, I'll call..." "Victoria Chen." A new voice cut through the tension. I turned. Another receptionist had appeared from a side office, older, with gray streaking through her dark hair. Her name tag read, Patricia Lee. She looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. "Her name is Victoria Chen," Patricia repeated quietly. "She's been coming here twice a week for the past 8 months. Always brings him lunch on Tuesdays. They usually eat in his office." The floor felt unsteady beneath my feet. "That's not possible." "Honey, maybe you should sit down." Patricia moved toward me, but I stepped back. "I'm wearing his ring." I held up my left hand, the diamond catching the overhead lights. "A year's salary," Marcus had told me. "The best for my best girl." "We're engaged. We're getting married in 4 months. The invitations went out last week." Jennifer and Patricia exchanged a look that made my stomach twist. "What floor?" I heard myself ask. "What floor is his office on?" "15th," Patricia said before Jennifer could stop her. "But you really shouldn't." I was already moving toward the elevators, my coffee-soaked shoes leaving tracks across the pristine marble. Behind me, I heard Jennifer frantically speaking into her phone, probably alerting security. I didn't care. My entire body was operating on autopilot, propelled by a cocktail of adrenaline and disbelief. The elevator ride lasted forever and no time at all. I watched the numbers climb. 5, 6, 7. My reflection in the polished brass looked like a stranger. Pale face, wild eyes, engagement ring glinting mockingly. 8, 9, 10. This was a mistake. It had to be a mistake. Patricia had confused Marcus with someone else. Maybe there was another Marcus Chen in the building. 11, 12, 13. The doors opened on 15. The floor was quieter than the lobby, carpeted in thick gray that muffled footsteps. Frosted glass offices lined both sides of a central corridor. I could see shadowy figures moving behind the glass, hear the muted sounds of keyboards and phone conversations. Everyone looked important, busy, completely absorbed in the serious business of making money. I didn't know which office was Marcus's. I'd never been here before. In 3 years of dating and 3 months of engagement, I'd never once visited his workplace. He always said it wasn't interesting, that I'd be bored, that he preferred to keep work and home separate. Red flags that seemed so obvious now, blaring like sirens in my mind. "Can I help you?" A young man in suspenders appeared at my elbow, his expression polite but puzzled. Probably wondering why a woman in jeans and a coffee-stained shirt was wandering the executive floor. "Marcus Chen's office," I managed. "Where is it?" He hesitated, glancing down the corridor. Corner office, but he's in a meeting right now." I was already walking. The corner office had windows, overlooking the city, frosted glass doors like all the others. Through the distortion, I could see 2 figures. One standing, gesturing animatedly. One sitting behind the desk, both laughing. My hand was on the door handle before I could think about what I was doing. The frosted glass slid open silently. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Marcus was behind his mahogany desk, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in weeks. His jacket was off, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. And across from him, perched on the edge of his desk in a way that spoke of casual intimacy, was a woman I'd never seen before. She was beautiful, objectively, devastatingly beautiful. Long black hair in an elegant twist, designer suit that probably cost more than my rent, posture that suggested both confidence and breeding. She was laughing at something Marcus had said, her hand resting on the desk near his, her wedding ring, white gold, diamonds, expensive, catching the light. They both looked up when I entered. Marcus's face went through a remarkable transformation. Relaxation to surprise, to confusion to something that might have been panic. It happened in less than a second, but I caught every microsecond of it. "Emma." He stood quickly, knocking a pen off his desk. "What are you doing here?" The woman turned fully toward me now, her expression polite but puzzled. Up close, she was even more stunning. Mid-30s, impeccable makeup, the kind of polish that came from money and good breeding. She looked like she belonged in this office, in this world of glass and chrome and serious finance. I wanted to surprise you, I said slowly. My voice sounded strange, detached. For your promotion news. I brought coffee, but I dropped it in the lobby when the receptionist told me you were with your wife. The silence that followed was deafening. The woman's polite expression froze. Her eyes darted between Marcus and me, something dawning in her face. Marcus had gone very pale. Emma, this is Victoria Hartwell Chen. This is complicated. Hartwell Chen. The name clicked. As in Hartwell Financial Group? My father's company, Victoria said quietly. Her poise had slipped. She was staring at the ring on my finger. And you're wearing... Marcus, what is she talking about? You didn't know. I looked at Victoria, really looked at her, and saw my own confusion mirrored back. You didn't know about me. Should I have? Victoria's voice was still controlled, but barely. Marcus, who is this woman? Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I'd never seen him at a loss for words before. He was always so smooth, so articulate, the kind of man who could talk his way into or out of anything. Now he looked like a trapped animal. We're engaged, I said when Marcus didn't answer. I held up my hand again, the diamonds suddenly feeling like a weight. 3 months ago, wedding in June, 200 guests. The venue is booked. Victoria stood slowly from the desk. That's impossible. That's what I thought, I said, my voice cracking slightly, when the receptionist told me he was with his wife. Because I am his wife. Victoria's hand went to her own ring. We've been married for 9 years. We have a daughter. She's 7. The office tilted. I grabbed the doorframe to steady myself. No, I heard myself say. No, that's not possible. We live together. We've lived together for 2 years. He comes home every night. We're planning a wedding. But even as I said it, pieces were clicking together in my mind. The business trips, the late nights, the weekends he spent at client sites, the way he kept his phone face down, the separate bank accounts he insisted on, the fact that I'd never met his family, never been to his hometown, never seen a single photo from his past. Where do you live? Victoria's voice was steady now, sharp with intelligence. She was in lawyer mode, I realized. Or investigator mode, assembling facts. Brookdale, I whispered. The loft apartments on Riverside Drive. His company apartment, Victoria said flatly. The one he uses when he works late, which apparently is far more often than I realized. Marcus finally found his voice. Victoria, I can explain. Don't. Victoria held up a hand. Her composure was cracking now, anger bleeding through. Don't you dare say another word right now. She turned to me, and I saw my own pain reflected in her eyes. How old are you? 26. Of course you are. Victoria laughed, a bitter sound. And let me guess, you met him at some young professional networking event? Or maybe a charity gala? He swept you off your feet, told you he was climbing the corporate ladder, made you feel special. Each word was a knife. Yes. Did he tell you about Harvard Business School, the family estate in Connecticut, the trust fund? I shook my head mutely. No, he wouldn't have. Victoria's voice was getting harder. He'd have played the self-made man, the guy fighting his way to the top. Made you feel like you were supporting his dreams, building something together. She looked at Marcus with undisguised contempt. It's the same script you used on me, isn't it? 10 years ago, when I was young and stupid enough to believe you'd actually love me for me and not my father's company. Victoria, that's not fair. Marcus started. Fair? Victoria's voice cracked like a whip. You want to talk about fair? While you've been playing house with your girlfriend in our company apartment, I've been raising our daughter alone, lying to her about why Daddy misses her recitals, making excuses for why he can't coach her soccer team. Fair? You have a daughter, I said numbly. He has a daughter. Isabel. Victoria pulled her phone from her jacket pocket, turned it toward me. The lock screen showed a little girl with Marcus's eyes and Victoria's. Dark hair, gap-toothed and grinning in a soccer uniform. She thinks her father is a hero. She has a picture of him on her nightstand. She writes him letters when he's away on his frequent business trips. I was going to be sick. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I believe you. Victoria's anger seemed to drain slightly, replaced by exhaustion. You're not the villain here. You're just another one of his casualties. Casualties? The word snagged something in my mind. Another one? Victoria and I both looked at Marcus. He'd sunk back into his chair, his face ashen. This isn't what it looks like. It looks like you're a lying, cheating sociopath who's been living a double life, Victoria said coldly. So please, enlighten us. What is it actually? Marcus didn't answer. He was staring at his desk, at his hands, at anything but the two women in his office. How many? I asked quietly. How many have there been? Emma, don't... How many? My voice was stronger now, fueled by a rage that was starting to cut through the shock. If I'm just another casualty, I deserve to know how many came before me. Jesus Christ. Victoria was looking at her phone now, scrolling rapidly. Patricia texted me. She said, Marcus, did you really propose to this girl? Was that actually your grandmother's ring? I looked down at the diamond on my finger. He said it was a family heirloom. It's a cubic zirconia from a pawn shop. Victoria's laugh was hollow. I know because I found the receipt in his car 2 months ago. I thought it was for a client gift. How stupid could I be? The ring felt like it was burning my finger. I twisted it off, the metal suddenly alien and wrong against my skin. You know what the worst part is? Victoria was still scrolling through her phone. I almost didn't come today. Isabel's school called. She's sick. They want someone to pick her up. But I thought, no. This meeting with Marcus about next quarter's budget is important. We barely see each other anymore. I should make the effort. She looked up at Marcus, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I should have picked up my daughter. I'll get her, Marcus said quickly. I'll leave right now. You'll stay exactly where you are. Victoria's voice was ice. You'll sit in that chair and you'll tell us everything. Every lie, every manipulation, every woman. Because I promise you, Marcus, if you don't, I will burn your entire world to the ground. You can't, Marcus started. I can't? Victoria's eyebrows rose. Marcus, darling, let me remind you of some facts. This is my father's company. Your position here exists because I convinced him to hire you. The house we live in? My trust fund bought it. The car you drive? My name on the title. Your membership at the country club? My family's legacy membership. I gave you all of this because I loved you, and I thought you loved me back. She moved closer to his desk, her voice dropping to something dangerous. But I'm not some naive 24-year-old anymore. I'm a woman who's spent 9 years watching you carefully, who's dealt with narcissists in courtrooms and boardrooms, who knows exactly how to dismantle a life. She smiled, sharp as broken glass. So, you're going to sit there and tell us the truth. All of it. Or I will spend every dollar of my considerable fortune making sure you end up with nothing. Marcus looked between us, trapped. I could see him calculating, trying to figure out which lie would work, Which angle would save him? It was fascinating in a horrible way, watching the mask slip completely. This wasn't the man I'd fallen in love with. That man had never existed. "There's a file," I heard myself say. "On your laptop." Both of them turned to look at me. "I saw it once," I continued, my voice distant. "3 weeks ago. You'd left your laptop open when you went to take a shower. There was a folder labeled T&E, and I thought it meant travel and expenses." I opened it. Marcus had gone very still. "There were photos," I said, the memory flooding back with awful clarity. So many photos. Women at restaurants, women at events, women at what looked like other apartments, and spreadsheets. Dates, names, locations. I thought maybe it was a project you were working on, some kind of case study. You caught me looking and you laughed it off, said it was research for a presentation on consumer behavior. "T&E," Victoria said slowly. "What did it really stand for?" Marcus's silence was answer enough. "Let me see the laptop," Victoria said. "It's at home," Marcus said quickly. "The home office." "Which home?" Victoria's voice was sharp. "The one you share with your wife, or the one you share with your fiancé?" Marcus flinched. "Both," I said suddenly. "He has it at both. He bought 2 identical laptops." I commented on it once. Why did he need 2? He said one was for personal use and one was for work, that the company required it. But they're the same model, same year, same specs. Victoria was already pulling out her phone again. "What's the address of your place?" I told her. She typed rapidly, then held the phone to her ear. "Yes, hi, I need a locksmith. Emergency situation." She rattled off my address. "How soon can you get there?" 30 minutes? Perfect. I'll meet you there." She hung up and looked at me. "Do you have a key?" I nodded mutely, fishing in my purse for my keys. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip them. "Good." Victoria's voice was all business now. "You and I are going to take a little field trip to your apartment. We're going to get that laptop and we're going to look at every file on it. Then we're going back to my house to get the other one." She turned to Marcus. "You're going to stay here. You're not going to call anyone. You're not going to text anyone. You're not going to leave this building. If you do, I will have building security detain you. My father's name still carries weight here. You can't just..." Marcus started to stand. "Sit down." The command in Victoria's voice would have been impressive if the whole situation wasn't so surreal. "I mean it, Marcus. You move from that chair before I say you can. And I will make one phone call that ends your career in this city. Don't test me." Marcus sat. Victoria turned back to me. "What's your name? Your full name?" "Emma Chen. Well, Emma Morrison. I was going to take his name after the wedding." "Emma Morrison," Victoria repeated. "I'm Victoria Hartwell Chen, though I'm starting to think I should have kept just Hartwell." She held out her hand. "It's terrible to meet you under these circumstances." I took her hand automatically. Her grip was firm, grounding. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "I know." Victoria's expression softened slightly. "And I'm sorry, too. You got pulled into this mess through no fault of your own." She glanced back at Marcus. "We both did." "Victoria, if you would just listen..." Marcus tried again. "Save it." Victoria cut him off. "I've listened to you for 9 years. I'm done listening. Come on, Emma, we have a laptop to retrieve." She strode toward the door, and after a moment's hesitation, I followed. In the doorway, I turned back to look at Marcus one last time. He was slumped in his chair, looking smaller somehow. Defeated. "The coffee was from the roasted bean," I said quietly. The place you always said made the best lattes in the city. I drove 40 minutes to get them. I was so excited to surprise you. I left before he could respond, pulling the door closed behind me. Through the frosted glass, I could see his silhouette, motionless in his expensive chair in his corner office in a company owned by the family of the wife he'd betrayed. Victoria was already halfway down the corridor, her heels clicking purposefully on the carpet. I hurried to catch up, acutely aware of the stares we were getting from other employees. Word was going to spread fast about whatever drama had just unfolded in Marcus Chen's office. In the elevator, the silence was thick. Victoria stared straight ahead at the brass doors, her jaw tight. I stood beside her, my mind racing, trying to process everything that had just happened. "How did you not know?" I finally asked. "About me, I mean. How did he hide a whole relationship?" Victoria's laugh was bitter. The same way he hid everything else. Lies wrapped in enough truth to be believable. Business trips that actually happened, just not for the reasons he claimed. Late nights that really were work, just with you waiting for him afterward. She glanced at me. "How did you not know about me?" He said his family was complicated, that they didn't approve of his career choices, that he was estranged from them. He said his parents died when he was young, that he was an only child. That building a life with me meant everything because he'd never really had a family. The words felt stupid coming out of my mouth now. I was too trusting. "You were in love." Victoria's voice was gentler. "That's not the same as being stupid. He's good at this, Emma. Really good. You can't blame yourself for believing someone you loved." The elevator reached the lobby. Jennifer and Patricia were both at the desk, watching our descent with barely concealed shock. Other employees were pretending not to stare while absolutely staring. I could only imagine what the gossip would be by lunch. "Mrs. Chen," Patricia called out as we passed. "Is everything—" "Everything is fine, Patricia," Victoria said without breaking stride. "Though I'd appreciate it if you could make a note that Marcus is not to leave the building until I return. Security should be informed." "Of course, Mrs. Chen." We pushed through the glass doors into the sunshine. I'd forgotten it was still morning, forgotten the world kept turning outside that office. Victoria's car was parked in a reserved spot near the entrance. A silver Mercedes that probably cost more than I made in 2 years. "Get in," she said, unlocking it. I slid into the passenger seat, the leather soft and expensive beneath me. Victoria started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot with the kind of smooth precision that came from years of driving luxury vehicles. "I need you to understand something," Victoria said as we merged into traffic. "I'm not doing this because I like you, or because we're friends, or out of some misguided sense of feminine solidarity. I'm doing this because Marcus made me into a fool, and I don't tolerate that." "I understand." "I'm going to destroy him," she continued, her voice matter of fact. "Professionally, financially, socially. By the time I'm done, he won't have a job, a house, or a single friend who'll return his calls. I want you to know that going in." "Good," I said, surprised by the venom in my own voice. "He deserves it." Victoria glanced at me, one eyebrow raised. "Do you mean that? Or are you still half in love with him?" I thought about the question. Thought about Marcus's face when he'd been caught. The calculations behind his eyes. The way he'd looked at both of us like problems to be managed, rather than people he'd hurt. 3 months ago, he proposed on the beach at sunset. I said slowly. He got down on one knee and told me I was the love of his life, that he'd been searching for me his whole existence, that everything before me was just waiting. I looked down at my bare finger, at the pale indent where the fake ring had been. I believed every word. I cried. I said yes before he even finished asking. Victoria's hands tightened on the steering wheel. But that man doesn't exist, I continued. That man was a character he played. The real Marcus? The one sitting in that office right now? I looked at Victoria. I don't love him. I don't even know him. So yes, I mean it. Destroy him. Victoria nodded slowly. Then we understand each other. She turned onto Riverside Drive toward my apartment. My apartment that apparently wasn't mine at all. Just another company property in Marcus's web of lies. When we get there, Victoria said, I need you to think carefully about what else might be in that apartment. Papers, documents, anything that doesn't quite add up. Other phones, tablets, anything he might have hidden. Can you do that? Yes. And Emma? Victoria glanced at me again. Whatever we find on that laptop, and I have a feeling it's going to be bad, you need to stay calm. Can you do that too? I thought about the spreadsheet I'd glimpsed, the rows and columns of data, names, dates, locations, and the photos. So many photos of women who all looked vaguely similar. Young, professional, earnest, all believing in the character Marcus had created for them. I'll try, I said. Victoria pulled into the parking garage beneath my building. Our building, whatever it was. The locksmith's van was already there, the company logo bright against white paint. Mrs. Chen? The locksmith, a middle-aged man with tool bags slung over both shoulders, approached as we got out of the car. Got your call. What are we looking at here? Emergency access, Victoria said smoothly, pulling out a business card and handing it to him. This property is owned by Hartwell Financial Group. I'm Victoria Hartwell Chen, and I need immediate access. There are sensitive company documents inside that need to be secured. The locksmith studied the card, then nodded. Apartment number? 1204, I said, my voice hoarse. We rode the elevator in silence. The locksmith made small talk about the weather while Victoria responded with polite monosyllables. I just stared at my reflection in the mirrored walls, not recognizing the haunted-looking woman staring back. The hallway was empty when we reached the 12th floor. My keys felt heavy in my hand as I approached the door. Our door. The one with the welcome mat I'd picked out at Target. The one where Marcus would kiss me every morning before leaving for work. Actually, Victoria said, stopping the locksmith before he could start working. Do you want to try your key first, Emma? It might still work. I nodded, hands shaking as I fitted the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, and the door swung open. The apartment looked exactly as I'd left it this morning. Coffee mug in the sink, jacket on the hook. The framed photo of Marcus and me at his company holiday party. Except now I realized Victoria probably hadn't been at that party. Had probably been told Marcus was working late. Where's the laptop? Victoria asked, all business. Home office. I led her down the short hallway to the second bedroom that Marcus had converted into a workspace. The laptop sat on the desk, closed, the Apple logo gleaming. Victoria opened it without hesitation. The screen came to life, requesting a password. Do you know it? She asked. It's Isabel's birthday, I said, the realization hitting me like a slap. July 15th, 2017. He told me it was his mother's birthday. Victoria's face went very still. Then she typed in the numbers. 0715217. The laptop unlocked. He used our daughter's birthday as his password for his affair laptop, Victoria said quietly. That's a special kind of cruel. She began clicking through files while I stood behind her, watching over her shoulder. The locksmith had stayed in the doorway, wisely deciding this was not his business. Victoria found the folder quickly, T&E. She opened it. The screen filled with thumbnails. Dozens of folders, each labeled with a name and date range. Jennifer, March 2019 to August 2019. Rachel, September 2019 to February 2020. Sophia, March 2020 to November 2020. The list went on. And on. Oh my God, I whispered. Victoria opened one at random. Photos spilled across the screen. A blonde woman at a restaurant, laughing at something off camera. The same woman at what looked like a corporate event. At a coffee shop. In an apartment that might have been this one. And screenshots of text messages. Dozens of them. Full of hearts and inside jokes and plans for the future. Victoria clicked to another folder. Different woman, same pattern. Then another. And another. There are at least 30 folders here, Victoria said, her voice eerily calm. 30 women. I backed up until my legs hit the bed, then sat down hard. 30. And those are just the ones he bothered to document. Victoria kept clicking, her face set like stone. Look at this. He's got spreadsheets. Date of first meeting, date of first date, date of first intimacy. Financial investments made. Gifts given. Estimated timeline to proposal. He's got a column for proposal success rate. He's tracking us like we're some kind of game. Not a game. Victoria's voice was cold. An experiment, or a hobby. These dates overlap, Emma. While he was engaged to you, he was also dating at least 3 other women. And while he was married to me, he was engaged to... She scrolled rapidly. 5 different women over 9 years. You're number 5. The room spun. 5. And these are just the serious ones. Look, there's another folder. Prospects. Victoria clicked it open. More photos. More names. Women at networking events. At charity galas. At conferences. Notes beside each photo. Too independent. Too clingy. Good potential. Family money. Investigate. He's a predator, I said. The word felt too small for what Marcus actually was. He's methodical. Victoria pulled out her phone and started taking photos of the screen. And careful. Look at how he segments the folders. Different time periods. No overlap in the photos themselves. He made sure each woman existed in her own separate bubble. Why? The question burst out of me. Why would someone do this? Victoria looked up from her phone, and for the first time since we'd left Marcus's office, she looked tired. I've asked myself that question for the past hour. The only answer I can come up with is that he's broken. Something fundamental in him doesn't work right. He doesn't see us as people. We're objects, achievements, things to collect and categorize. She turned back to the laptop, clicking through more files. But you know what? The why doesn't actually matter. What matters is making sure he can't do this to anyone else. How? I felt helpless, overwhelmed by the scale of Marcus's deception. He's been doing this for years, getting away with it for years. Because he was careful, and because none of us talked to each other. Victoria ejected a USB drive I hadn't noticed her plugging in. But now we are talking, and I have resources he doesn't realize I have. My family built Hartwell Financial, Emma. We have investigators, lawyers, connections in every major firm in this city. She stood, the USB drive in her hand. More importantly, we have something Marcus never counted on. 2 of his victims working together. Both of us smart enough to see exactly what he is. The locksmith cleared his throat from the doorway. Ladies? I don't mean to interrupt, but you're kind of freaking me out. Should I be calling the police or something? Victoria smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Not yet, but thank you for asking. Emma, is there anything else here we should take? I looked around the apartment, at the life I'd built with a man who'd never existed. His phone records, he keeps printed statements in the desk drawer, said it was a backup in case the cloud failed. Good. What else? The closet. I moved to open it, and my stomach dropped. Victoria, you need to see this. She joined me at the closet door. Inside, on the top shelf behind extra blankets, were boxes. Multiple boxes, all labeled with different names. Victoria pulled one down. Rachel. Inside were gifts. A bracelet, a dried flower, a birthday card, photos, mementos from a relationship that had ended 5 years ago, carefully preserved and filed away. He keeps trophies, I said numbly. He's keeping trophies. Victoria's hand trembled slightly as she opened another box. Sophia. More gifts, more photos. She opened a third. Jennifer. I pulled down the box labeled with my name. Inside were the movie ticket stubs from our first date, the pressed flower from our 6-month anniversary, the handwritten note I'd left him after a particularly meaningful conversation. Things I thought he'd treasured because he loved me. He'd just been cataloging his collection. Take it all, Victoria said, her voice hard. Every box, every document, every piece of evidence. We're going to need it. We loaded everything into bags the locksmith helped us find. Garbage bags from under the kitchen sink, shopping bags from the hall closet. The laptop went into Victoria's designer handbag. The boxes, the papers, the printed phone records, even the framed photos. Everything that could prove Marcus's pattern of deception. As we worked, I kept finding more pieces. A second phone, tucked behind books on the shelf. A passport with stamps from trips I'd never known about. Credit card statements showing purchases at restaurants I'd never been to, in cities Marcus supposedly hadn't visited. Look at this, Victoria said, holding up a small leather journal. She flipped it open. It's a diary. He actually kept a diary. The entries were clinical, detached. Met E at coffee shop, seems promising. More trusting than usual target demographic. Father issues. Good potential for attachment. Proposed timeline, 18 to 24 months to proposal, 6 months engagement, then natural dissolution post-wedding. Natural dissolution, I repeated. He was planning to leave me after the wedding. After accessing whatever resources you had, Victoria added grimly. Look, there's notes about your job, your family, your potential earning capacity. He did background research on you, Emma. This was premeditated. The locksmith had long since finished and excused himself, probably wanting nothing to do with whatever crime drama he'd stumbled into. Victoria called down to the building management, identifying herself as the property owner and authorizing the lock change. The manager, sounding confused but compliant, promised to have it done by end of day. We loaded everything into Victoria's car. 3 trips down the elevator, arms full of bags and boxes, the physical evidence of Marcus's double life packed into a luxury vehicle that smelled like leather and betrayal. Where now? I asked as Victoria started the engine. My house, she said. The real one. The one Marcus actually lives in with his actual family. She pulled out of the parking garage. We're going to get the other laptop, compare the files, and then we're going to start making phone calls. To who? Everyone. Victoria's smile was sharp. His employer, my father's company, which makes this easier. The Bar Association, since he lied on his membership application about his marital status. Every single woman in these files who we can track down. And most importantly, a very good lawyer who specializes in fraud and identity theft. Identity theft? He pretended to be single when he was married. He used company resources for personal relationships. He forged documents. I'm willing to bet that when we dig deeper, we'll find fake divorce papers, fake death certificates, whatever story he told to explain his tragic past. Victoria's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Marcus is going to prison, Emma. I'm going to make absolutely certain of that. We drove in silence for a while, the bags rustling in the back seat with every turn. I stared out the window at the city scrolling past. People living their normal lives, going to work, meeting friends, completely unaware that my entire existence had just imploded. "Can I ask you something?" I said finally. "Go ahead." "When did you realize that something was wrong with him?" Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "There were signs," she said eventually. "Little things that didn't quite add up. The way he'd check out emotionally sometimes, like he was running calculations behind his eyes. How he always had an answer for everything, never got caught off guard. The fact that he seemed to love me most when I was useful to him and barely noticed me when I wasn't." She turned onto a tree-lined street. But I told myself I was being paranoid. That marriage was work, that everyone had rough patches. "I did the same thing," I admitted. He'd disappear for hours and come back with some perfectly reasonable explanation. He'd get weird about me meeting his friends or family, which I now realize is because they were probably your friends and family. He kept our finances completely separate, wouldn't even tell me what he earned, but I just thought. I trailed off. "You thought he was private," Victoria finished, "or independent, or that he had good reasons, because that's what he told you, and you trusted him." "Exactly." "That's what makes him dangerous," Victoria said. "He's not some obvious monster. He's charming and attentive and says all the right things at the right times. He makes you feel special, chosen. And by the time you realize something's wrong, you're so deeply invested that you rationalize the red flags away." She pulled into the driveway of a large colonial house, all white columns and black shutters. Perfectly manicured lawn, flower beds bursting with color. The kind of house that screamed family and stability, and old money. "Welcome to the Chen Hartwell residence," Victoria said with bitter humor. "Population about to be reduced by 1. We sat in the car for a moment, staring at the house. "Are you ready?" Victoria asked. I looked at the bags piled in the back seat, the evidence of 3 years of my life built on complete fabrication. Thought about the little girl inside that house who thought her father was a hero. About Victoria, who'd built a life with a man who saw her as a resource to exploit. About all the other women in those files, all of us believing we were special. "I'm ready," I said. We got out of the car and walked toward the house together. 2 of Marcus Chen's victims, about to become his worst nightmare. Victoria's house was everything mine wasn't. Lived in, loved, real. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. A soccer ball sat by the door. Photos lined the hallway walls, chronicling a life I'd never known existed. Marcus at a beach, his arm around a laughing Victoria. Marcus holding a newborn wrapped in pink. Marcus teaching a toddler to ride a bike. Each photo was a knife to the chest. "Isabel's still at school," Victoria said, checking her watch. "We have about 2 hours before I need to pick her up. That should be enough time to get what we need." She led me upstairs to a home office that matched Marcus's supposed aesthetic. Minimalist, Organized, expensive. The second laptop sat on the desk, identical to the one in my apartment. Same password? I asked. Let's find out. Victoria typed in Isabel's birthday. The screen unlocked immediately. We spent the next hour going through files, comparing the two laptops side by side. The organization was identical. The same careful cataloging, the same clinical notes, the same trophy boxes of mementos. But this laptop had something mine didn't. Financial records. He's been embezzling, Victoria said, her voice tight with fury. Look at these transfers. Small amounts, consistent, always just under the reporting threshold, from company accounts into offshore holdings. I leaned closer to the screen. How much? Over 9 years? Victoria's fingers flew across the calculator app. Approximately $2.3 million. The number hung in the air between us. My father's company, Victoria continued, her voice dangerously quiet. He's been stealing from my father's company while sleeping in my father's guest house and raising my father's granddaughter. She pulled out her phone and made a call. Dad, it's Victoria. I need you to freeze all of Marcus's accounts and access immediately. Yes, right now. I'm at the house. I'm looking at his laptop. And he's been stealing from the company. She paused, listening. I'll explain everything later, but I need you to trust me. Freeze everything. Yes, everything. She hung up and looked at me. My father was always skeptical of Marcus. Said he was too smooth, too polished. I defended him. She laughed bitterly. God, I defended him. What happens now? I asked. Victoria's smile was cold. Now we make copies of everything. Then we call every woman in these files and warn them. And then we call the police and the FBI for the financial crimes. And then... She paused, her expression darkening. Then I tell my 7-year-old daughter that her father is a monster. The enormity of it hit me. Victoria, I'm so sorry. Isabel doesn't deserve this. No, she doesn't. Victoria's voice cracked slightly. But she also doesn't deserve to grow up thinking this is what love looks like. That men who lie and cheat and steal are heroes. Better she learns now, while she's young, that her mother chose to protect her instead of protecting a man who never deserved either of us. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Please call me. I can explain everything. I love you. I showed Victoria the screen. She snorted. I got the same message, word for word. She held up her own phone, showing an identical text. He's not even original, I said wonderingly. Efficiency over authenticity. Victoria plugged in multiple USB drives, copying files with practiced efficiency. He probably has templates for everything. The proposal speech, the I love you declarations, the apology texts. Why waste time being genuine when you can just recycle material? While the files copied, Victoria pulled up a document on her phone. I've been making a list. Every woman we can identify from his files, we need to contact. Some of these relationships ended years ago, but they deserve to know the truth. They might not believe us. Some won't, Victoria agreed. They'll think we're crazy exes or jealous rivals, but some will. And those women will help us build the case. She looked at me seriously. Are you prepared for this, Emma? It's going to get ugly. Marcus will fight back. He'll try to discredit us, paint us as unstable or vindictive. The media might get involved. Your name will be dragged through everything. I thought about the vanilla lattes soaking into marble floors, the fake ring burning my finger, the boxes of trophies from women who'd loved a man who'd never existed. I'm prepared, I said firmly. Victoria nodded. Good, then let's start making calls. The first woman we reached was named Jennifer Patterson. She'd dated Marcus for 5 months in 2019, according to his files. Victoria put the call on speaker. Hello? Jennifer's voice was cautious. Hi, Jennifer. My name is Victoria Chen, and this is Emma Morrison. We're calling about Marcus Chen. You dated him in 2019? A long pause. Who is this really? I'm Marcus's wife, Victoria said calmly. And Emma was his fiancé until about 3 hours ago. We've discovered he's been running multiple relationships simultaneously for years. You're one of at least 30 women he's deceived. This is a joke. I wish it were, I said. Jennifer, did Marcus tell you he was an only child? That his parents died when he was young? That he was building his career from nothing? Another pause, longer this time. How did you know that? Because he told all of us the same story, Victoria said. He has a file on his laptop with photos of you, notes about your relationship, and a timeline of your time together. March through August 2019. He rated your potential on a spreadsheet. Oh my God! Jennifer's voice was shaky now. He proposed to me. In July. I said no because something felt wrong. He got angry, really angry, and then just disappeared. Blocked me on everything. Victoria and I exchanged glances. He proposed to you? Yes, with a ring he said was his grandmother's. It looked expensive, but something about it felt off. I asked to get it appraised, and he got defensive. That's when I started questioning everything. Jennifer's voice strengthened. I tried to find information about him online afterward, but there was barely anything, like he'd scrubbed his entire digital presence. Because he had multiple identities to maintain, Victoria said. Jennifer, we're building a case against him. Would you be willing to provide a statement? Absolutely. Jennifer's voice was hard now. What do you need? We spent 20 minutes getting Jennifer's story, her documentation, her evidence. Then we moved to the next name on the list. By the time we'd made 6 calls, a pattern had emerged. The women who'd ended things with Marcus, who'd questioned him, pushed back, demanded answers, had been discarded immediately. But the ones who'd been compliant, who'd trusted him completely, had been strung along until he'd extracted whatever value he wanted, then ghosted. He's a parasite, one woman, Rachel, said bluntly. He attached himself to my life, convinced me to introduce him to my professional contacts, and then vanished once he'd gotten what he needed. 2 job offers came from people I introduced him to. Victoria made notes on everything. Names, dates, patterns of behavior, evidence of fraud, emotional manipulation, financial exploitation. The doorbell rang. We both froze. Victoria checked her security camera app. It's my father. She went downstairs. I heard the door open, heard a deep male voice say, Victoria, what the hell is going on? I stayed in the office, feeling like an intruder. But moments later, Victoria returned with a distinguished-looking man in his 60s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed. Emma, this is my father, Robert Hartwell. Dad, this is Emma Morrison. She was engaged to Marcus. Robert's expression flickered with surprise, then hardened into anger. Engaged? Victoria, what? Sit down, Dad. This is going to take a while. We spent the next hour walking Robert through everything. The laptop files, the multiple relationships, the embezzlement, the systematic deception. His face grew darker with each revelation. That son of a bitch, he said finally. I gave him a job. I brought him into my family. I trusted him with my daughter and granddaughter. He looked at Victoria. I should have listened to my instincts. I knew something was wrong with him. We all missed it, Victoria said quietly. He's very good at being exactly what people need him to be. Robert pulled out his phone. I'm calling our legal team and our head of security. We're going to bury him. While Robert made calls, Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her expression darkened. It's the school, Isabel's principal. She answered, her voice immediately concerned. Hello? Yes, this is she. I watched her face change as she listened. What? When? Is she? I'll be right there. She hung up, already grabbing her keys. Marcus went to Isabel's school. He signed her out an hour ago, said there was a family emergency. He took her? My stomach dropped. The school had no reason to stop him. He's her father. He's authorized on the pickup list. Victoria was already running down the stairs. Dad, call the police. Tell them Marcus Chen has taken my daughter without permission. Emma, come with me. We piled into Victoria's car. Robert stayed behind, already on the phone with law enforcement. Victoria drove with controlled precision, her jaw tight, her eyes focused. Where would he take her? I asked. I don't know. His apartment? But that's too obvious. Victoria's phone rang through the car speakers. Marcus's name appeared on the screen. She answered. Where's my daughter? Victoria, calm down. Isabel's fine. She's with me. We're having ice cream. You took her out of school without telling me. She was sick, remember? The school called. I was just being a good father. Marcus's voice was smooth, reasonable. Unlike you and your new friend who are trying to destroy my life over some misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Victoria's voice was ice. That's what you're calling fraud, embezzlement, and systematic deception? A misunderstanding? You're overreacting. You saw some files out of context and jumped to conclusions. If you'd just come home, we can discuss this like adults. Bring Isabel back right now, or I'm calling the police. The police? Marcus laughed. On what grounds? I'm her father. I have every right to spend time with my daughter. You're the one acting irrationally, making wild accusations based on cherry-picked information. Victoria's hands tightened on the wheel. Marcus, I have your laptops. Both of them. I have the files, the records, the evidence of 30 different relationships. I have testimony from 6 women so far, and I'm going to reach all of them. I have proof of embezzlement from my father's company. You're finished. The line was quiet for a long moment. When Marcus spoke again, his voice had changed. The smoothness was gone, replaced by something colder. You really shouldn't have done that, Victoria. Is that a threat? It's a reality check. You think you can just tear apart my life? Destroy everything I've built? You have no idea what I'm capable of. I know exactly what you're capable of, Victoria said. I've seen your trophy collection. I've read your clinical little notes about how to manipulate women. I know you, Marcus. The real you. You know nothing. His voice was sharp now. You've been a convenience, Victoria. A useful stepping stone. Your father's company, your family name, your trust fund, all of it was just access to resources I needed. You were never special. None of you were. I could see tears on Victoria's face, but her voice remained steady. Bring my daughter back. Or what? You'll sick daddy on me? I'll be long gone before any of your lawyers can touch me. I've been planning exit strategies for years. Offshore accounts, false identities, countries with no extradition. You're all so predictable. Victoria pulled into a parking lot and stopped the car. You're bluffing. You'd never leave Isabel. Isabel? Marcus laughed. She's 7 years old. She'll forget about me in a few months. Kids are resilient like that. The mask was completely off now. This was the real Marcus. Cold, calculating, utterly devoid of empathy. "Let me talk to her," Victoria demanded. "She's eating ice cream. She's happy. More than she'll be when you poison her against me with your hysterical accusations." The sound of a car door closing came through the speaker. "I'll drop her off at your father's house in an hour. But Victoria, this isn't over. You want to destroy me? Fine. But I'll take you down with me. Every dirty secret about your family, every skeleton in Daddy's closet, every questionable business dealing. I know all of it. I've been documenting for years." The line went dead. Victoria sat frozen, tears streaming down her face. He's going to use her. He's going to use Isabel against me. No, he's not. I pulled out my phone. Because we have something he doesn't know about. I pulled up the voice recording app. It had been running the entire call. "You recorded him?" Victoria's eyes widened. "I recorded everything since we left his office. Every call, every conversation, including him explicitly threatening you and admitting to fraud." I showed her the files. "He just confessed to everything." Victoria stared at the recording, then started to laugh. It was slightly hysterical, edged with tears, but genuine. "You recorded him." "My dad was a lawyer," I said. "He always told me to document everything." I turned on the recording the second we walked out of Marcus's office. I pulled up another app. "And I've been automatically backing everything up to the cloud. Even if he finds my phone, we have copies." Victoria grabbed my face and kissed my forehead. "You brilliant, brilliant woman." Her phone rang again. Her father. "Victoria, the police have been alerted. They're looking for Marcus's car. I've also had our security team start tracking him through company resources." Robert's voice was grim. "He used his company credit card 20 minutes ago at an ice cream shop on Morrison Avenue." "We're 10 minutes from there," Victoria said, already pulling back onto the road. We found them at a small ice cream parlor with outdoor seating. Marcus sat at a table with Isabel, who was eating a sundae and chattering happily, completely oblivious to the situation. He saw us approaching, and his expression hardened. "Mommy," Isabel waved, ice cream on her face. "Daddy said I could have extra sprinkles." Victoria forced a smile. "That's wonderful, sweetie. Are you feeling better?" "I wasn't really sick," Isabel said matter-of-factly. "Daddy said we needed special daddy-daughter time." Victoria's jaw tightened. She looked at Marcus. "We need to talk. Privately. We have nothing to discuss." "Actually, we do." I stepped forward, my phone in my hand. "We have your confession, Marcus. All of it. Recorded, backed up, and already sent to Victoria's legal team." Marcus's face went pale. "You can't." "She can, and she did." Victoria's voice was hard. "It's over, Marcus. The police are looking for you. My father has frozen all your accounts. Your job is gone. And you just threatened me while kidnapping my daughter. All on a recorded line." For the first time since I'd known him, Marcus looked genuinely panicked. He stood abruptly, the chair scraping against concrete. "This is illegal. You can't record someone without consent." "Actually, in this state, one-party consent is all that's required," I said. "I learned that from my lawyer father. The one you said died in a car accident, remember?" Isabel was looking between us, confused. "Mommy? What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby." Victoria's voice gentled as she looked at her daughter. "Finish your ice cream. Then we're going to Grandpa's house." 2 police cars pulled into the parking lot. Marcus saw them and something in him seemed to break. "You bitch! You vindictive, crazy—" "Don't!" Victoria's voice cracked like a whip. "Not in front of our daughter." The officers approached, hands on their belts. "Marcus Chen?" Marcus looked at them, at Victoria, at me. I could see the calculations running behind his eyes, looking for an angle, a way out. But there was none. "Officers, there's been a misunderstanding," he started. "Save it." The older officer pulled out handcuffs. "We have a warrant for your arrest on suspicion of embezzlement and fraud. You have the right to remain silent." Isabel started crying as they cuffed her father. Victoria scooped her up, turning her away from the scene. "It's okay, baby. It's okay." But it wasn't okay. Not really. Isabel was sobbing into Victoria's shoulder, confused and scared. Marcus was being led away in handcuffs, still trying to talk his way out of it. Other customers were staring, phones out, recording. "Come on," I said quietly to Victoria. "Let's get her out of here." We drove to Robert's house in silence, Isabel crying quietly in the back seat. Victoria held herself together with visible effort, her hands steady on the wheel, but her eyes bright with unshed tears. Robert met us at the door, immediately taking Isabel from Victoria's arms. "Come here, princess. Grandpa has cookies inside." Once Isabel was distracted in the kitchen with Robert's housekeeper, Victoria finally let herself break. She sank onto the couch, her head in her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I sat beside her, not sure what to do. We barely knew each other. We'd been united by trauma and anger, but now, in the aftermath, we were just two strangers who discovered their lives were built on lies. "Thank you," Victoria said finally, her voice muffled, "for recording everything, for staying calm, for not falling apart when I needed someone steady." "Thank you for not blaming me," I said, "for understanding I didn't know." Victoria lifted her head, wiping her eyes. "We're going to be okay. Both of us. It's going to be hard, and it's going to hurt. But we're going to survive this." "How do you know?" "Because we're already stronger than he ever expected us to be." Victoria managed a small smile. "He thought we'd fight each other. Instead, we're taking him down together." Over the next 3 months, the case against Marcus Chen unfolded in spectacular fashion. The embezzlement charges were just the beginning. As more women came forward with their stories, 15 in total who agreed to testify, patterns of fraud, identity theft, and systematic deception emerged. The media had a field day. "Financial executive lived secret double life," the headlines screamed. "Modern-day bigamist deceived dozens of women." Marcus's photo was everywhere, his carefully constructed image shattered. Victoria filed for divorce and full custody. Given Marcus's arrest record and the recording of him threatening her, the judge granted a restraining order immediately. Isabel started therapy, working through her confusion and pain with a child psychologist who specialized in parental betrayal. I moved back in with my parents for a while, taking time to process everything. The apartment on Riverside Drive was returned to Hartwell Financial Group. The fake ring ended up in evidence. Everything I'd built with Marcus, every memory, every moment, had to be examined and recontextualized. But Victoria and I stayed in touch. Weekly coffee meetings at first, processing our shared trauma, then occasional dinners, then genuine friendship. We'd been bound by the worst experience of our lives, but we chose to transform that bond into something positive. "I got a job offer," I told her over coffee 6 months after that terrible day. "It's with a nonprofit that helps victims of romantic fraud." They want me to head their outreach program. Victoria smiled. That's perfect. You'd be amazing at that. What about you? How's the new position? After everything came out, Robert had offered Victoria a VP position at Hartwell Financial. She'd taken it, finally stepping into the role she'd always been qualified for, but had held back from because of Marcus. Exhausting, Victoria admitted. But good. Really good. And Isabel's doing better. She's asking fewer questions about Marcus, starting to understand in her way that sometimes people aren't who we think they are. That's a hard lesson for a 7-year-old. It's a hard lesson at any age. Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her expression shifted. The sentencing is tomorrow. Marcus had pled guilty to multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement. His lawyers had advised him that fighting 15 testimonies plus documented evidence was futile. The prosecution was recommending 12 years. Are you going? I asked. Victoria nodded. I need to, for closure. Will you come with me? The courtroom was packed. Women I recognized from the laptop files, their faces marked by the same betrayal I'd felt. Journalists, Marcus's former colleagues. Robert Hartwell, sitting in the front row with his arms crossed. Marcus was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. His hair was unkempt, his characteristic polish gone. When his eyes swept the gallery, looking for a sympathetic face, he found none. The judge was a stern woman in her 50s. She looked at Marcus with undisguised contempt as she read the charges and his guilty plea. Mr. Chen, you've systematically deceived, manipulated, and exploited dozens of women over the course of years. You've stolen from your employer, betrayed your family, and shown absolutely no remorse for your actions. She paused. Does the defendant wish to make a statement? Marcus stood. For a moment, I thought he might actually apologize. But then he spoke. Your Honor, I made mistakes. I let success go to my head. But I'm not the monster these women are making me out to be. I cared about... Sit down. The judge's voice was cold. You don't get to play victim here. Marcus sat. I'm sentencing you to 15 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 10. Additionally, you will be required to pay restitution to each of your victims, and to Hartwell Financial Group in the amount of $3.2 million. The gavel came down. We're adjourned. Victoria grabbed my hand as they led Marcus away. He looked back once, his eyes finding hers. Whatever he saw in her face made him flinch. It's over, she whispered. It's over, I agreed. But it wasn't. Not really. Healing from betrayal doesn't end with a court sentence. It's a daily choice, a constant work of rebuilding trust in yourself and others. Victoria and I both threw ourselves into that work. She became an advocate for women in finance, speaking openly about her experience and warning others about the red flags she'd missed. I found my calling in helping fraud victims navigate their healing journey. 2 years later, we stood together at a conference for survivors of romantic fraud. Victoria was the keynote speaker. As I watched her address the crowd, strong, composed, transformed by her pain into something powerful, I thought about the 2 broken women who'd met in Marcus Chen's office. We'd come so far. After the conference, as we walked to our cars, Victoria said, "You know what the strangest part is? I'm grateful it happened." Grateful? Not for the pain, never for the pain, but for what came after, for finding my strength, for learning what I'm capable of, for meeting you. She smiled. For becoming the person I was supposed to be all along, instead of the person I was performing as for him. I understood. The woman I'd been, the one who'd driven 40 minutes for overpriced coffee, who'd practiced surprise smiles in rearview mirrors, who'd accepted crumbs of attention and called it love. She was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, someone who would never again mistake performance for authenticity. To survival, I said, raising my coffee cup. To survival, Victoria echoed. And to taking our lives back. We clinked cups, two women who'd faced down a monster and won. Not because we'd destroyed him, though we had, but because we'd refused to let him destroy us. That was the real victory. Not vengeance, but transformation. Not punishment, but healing. Not the ending he'd written for us, but the one we'd written for ourselves. And as we drove away into separate futures, I realized something. Marcus Chen had been wrong about everything. He thought we were victims to collect, trophies to catalog, objects to manipulate. But we were women, and we were stronger than he ever imagined. The end. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.